There's this idea in sports that always gets talked about, the ceiling. You've heard it before. That guy's got a high ceiling. And usually when we say that, we're picturing potential. We're imagining what an athlete could become if everything clicks. If the conditions are right. If the coaching is there. If he stays healthy. The ceiling is that dream scenario, the upper limit of greatness. But lately, more and more, you start to hear about the floor. And honestly, I think that might be even more important. See, when you talk about the floor in football, you're talking about the baseline. The minimum level of performance you can expect from someone or from a team. And when we shift the conversation from ceilings to floors, we're not talking about potential anymore. We're talking about reliability. We're talking about dependability. And in a National Football League, that counts for a whole lot more than people give it credit for. Think about it like this. Every team wants a player who can take over a game, someone who can explode off a screen, make the highlight reel, do something nobody else can do. But how often do those guys really show up? Not just on a roster, but actually deliver week in, week out? Now compare that to a guy who just shows up, does his job, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't kill your drives, doesn't give up the big play. That's the guy that keeps you in games. That's the guy who holds the whole thing together when chaos starts creeping in. That's the floor. Mike Tomlin's started using that language more lately, especially around the draft. He talks about safe picks, guys with a high floor. And when you hear that from him, it means something. It means the Steelers are thinking not just about upside, but about stability. About building a team that doesn't collapse when the other team throws the first punch. Let's look at a real example. One year, the Steelers go out and get Broderick Jones, classic ceiling pick. Big, athletic, raw, but man, if he hits, watch out. Then the next year, they follow that up with Troy Fautanu. Now, Troy's not flashy. He's not blowing anyone away with rare traits. But what he is solid, tough, technical, smart, reliable. A guy you can throw out there and feel good about it. That's a floor guy. And what the Steelers are doing with picks like that is laying down the planks of something real. Here's where it all comes together. You want to get to that ceiling? Cool. But you're not getting anywhere near it unless your floor is high enough to stand on. This team, this 2025 version of the Steelers, they've got dreams. They've got talent. But if you're asking me where my expectations are heading into week one, it's not up at the ceiling. It's planted firmly at the floor. Not because I don't believe in them, but because I do. And I know what needs to happen first. This isn't about being pessimistic. It's about being real. If the Steelers want to get off to a strong start, if they want to be taken seriously, then they need to prove that they can handle the basics. The fundamentals. The boring stuff that nobody puts in the Instagram highlight packages. I'm talking about clean football, low penalties, good communication, situational awareness, toughness in the trenches, and maybe more than anything else, the ability to run the ball. Yeah, run the ball. I'm not saying you have to go full Derrick Henry and run it 35 times a game. I'm not saying you have to lead the league in rushing. But you better be able to line up on 1st and 10 and come away with 2nd and 5. You better not be living in 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 8. Not again. We've seen what that looks like. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, enough. This isn't a new problem. It's been going on for years now. The Steelers have tried all kinds of things, new backs, new schemes, more commitment to the ground game. And yet, the results just haven't been there. Sure, the rushing attempts are high. The yards? Not so much. And when you can't run the ball effectively, everything else becomes harder. The defense pins their ears back. Your quarterback is under pressure. Your play action doesn't fool anyone. And worst of all, your offense ends up punting over and over again, putting the pressure right back on your defense. What I want to see in this opener, more than anything besides a win, is rhythm. Not just points, not just flashes, but rhythm, a flow. And the easiest way to get that is through the ground game. Establish that, and everything else opens up. You manage the clock. You keep the opposing offense off the field. You keep your own defense fresh. You give your offensive line a chance to build some confidence, especially after spending an entire offseason hearing how they're the weak link. You let those big guys come off the field with their heads held high, feeling like they did something right. That's the start of your floor. That's how you lay the bricks. And don't get it twisted, this goes for both sides of the ball. Because it doesn't matter how many stars you've got on defense. If the other team can run it down your throat, then none of that matters. TJ Watt can't do anything if he's watching a running back jog past him. Your corners can't make plays if the ball never goes in the air. Your exotic blitzes and zone drops and nickel packages, all of it becomes irrelevant if the opponent is getting 5 yards to carry on first down. We've seen it too many times. A few busted run fits, a missed tackle here or there, and suddenly the whole game plan gets thrown out the window. And now you're scrambling, chasing, plugging leaks instead of attacking. That's not how winning teams operate. Winning teams set the tone. They dictate terms. And it all starts with stopping the run. So yeah, keep it simple. That's been my motto all week. Don't get caught up in the hype. Don't worry about style points. Just play smart, clean, physical football. Run the ball. Stop the run. Let that be your identity until something better emerges. Let that be the foundation. You build a team from the ground up, not the top down. Now, I'll say this about the defense. They're feeling good. You talk to these guys, you get the sense that they know what they've got. And I'm not talking about empty confidence. I'm talking about guys who've seen it in practice. Guys who've watched the tape and thought, yeah, this can work. Even the quieter leaders like Alex Highsmith are saying the right things. You ask him about expectations, and he tells you flat out, they've got depth, they've got playmakers, and it's on them to deliver. They're not hiding from it. They want it. And honestly, that's a good sign, because it means they're not coming in overconfident. Not in week one. Not against a quarterback like Justin Fields, who, even if he's still developing, demands respect. You don't sleepwalk into a game like that and come out clean on the other side. You got to prepare. You got to lock in. You got to execute, especially when you're dealing with a guy who can hurt you in more than one way. Fields might not be the most polished passer in the league, but if he gets loose, he's dangerous. You have to contain him. You have to disrupt his rhythm. And you definitely have to go after the football when it's in his hands. Because if there's one consistent thing with Fields, it's the fumbles. Doesn't always lose them, but they're there. And if you're a smart defense, you're trying to make sure that trend continues. It's subtle, but it matters. It's the difference between reacting and dictating, between chasing and ambushing. And when you're playing someone with Fields' skill set, you can't afford to play reactive football. You have to think 2 moves ahead. You have to anticipate. And more than anything else, you've got to be aggressive, especially when he puts that ball in jeopardy. Let's not sugarcoat it. Fields has had a fumble issue. Whether it ends up recovered by the defense or not, the ball is on the ground more than it should be. And that's blood in the water for this Steelers defense. They've spent all training camp preaching ball awareness, running strip drills, scooping up everything in sight, even when the play's already dead. That's not just about hustle. That's about habits. That's about making sure that the second that ball hits the grass, 10 guys are diving on it, and 1 guy's already halfway to the end zone. They've practiced it. They've talked about it. Now it's time to go do it. And if they do, then maybe we can start having that ceiling conversation. But not until then. Because again, and I'll say as many times as I need to, it starts with the floor. It starts with building habits, with executing the little things, with knowing your assignments, trusting your teammates, and taking care of business when the game is still in the grind-it-out phase. You don't win games in the fourth quarter unless you've handled the first 3. You don't pull off miracles if you've been falling apart for 60 minutes. The good teams don't wait around hoping to be great. They lay the bricks early. And the Steelers need to do that this Sunday. Another thing that's been coming up a lot around this team is the offensive rhythm, or lack thereof. I mentioned it earlier, but it really deserves to be underlined. This group has talent. They've got a quarterback with a chip on his shoulder. They've got wide receivers who can make contested catches. They've got multiple tight ends with different skill sets. And they've got a backfield that, in theory, should be better than average. So why has it looked so disjointed for so long? It's not always about the coordinator. It's not always about the scheme. Sometimes it's about tempo, confidence, identity. And that's where the run game comes back in. Because when you can run the ball, you don't just gain yards, you gain control. You control the pace of the game. You control the down and distance. You control the defense's reactions. And you give your quarterback a chance to operate with a clear mind instead of feeling like he's dragging the offense behind him. That's why I'm so fixated on seeing the Steelers run the ball well this weekend. Not to make a statement, not to flex on anybody, but to stabilize, to set the tone, to let this offense breathe. That alone could be the difference between a win and a loss in Week 1. Because here's the thing. The margins are razor thin in this league. One busted assignment, one missed block, one unnecessary penalty, and suddenly a promising drive turns into 3rd and long, and you're punting again. That's the kind of stuff that kills momentum. That's what keeps teams from ever finding a rhythm. And when you've got a young quarterback, or even just a quarterback trying to establish himself, you can't afford to live in those situations. You need to give him something manageable. You need to give the whole offense something they can believe in. And on defense, it's the same principle. There are a lot of new pieces this year, in the secondary especially. New faces, new combinations, different communication. And while the ceiling for that unit is exciting, the floor is what I care about right now. Can you tackle in space? Can you stop the run on 1st down? Can you avoid giving up the kind of explosive play that takes the crowd out of the game and the wind out of the team's sails? You can have all the talent in the world on defense, but if you're giving up chunk plays because of busted coverage or bad angles, none of that matters. You have to be sharp. You have to be disciplined. And you have to be relentless. Not just for a quarter, not just on 3rd downs, but all game long. And that brings me back to something I said earlier. Identity. What is this team's identity? Not the one they put in the media guide. Not the one the fans want to believe in. The real identity. The one that shows up on 3rd and 2. The one that's revealed when things aren't going their way. Because that's when you find out what kind of team you've actually got. If this team wants to be special, then it starts by being solid. Not flashy. Not perfect. Solid. Consistent. Tough. If they do that, the rest will take care of itself. The stars will shine. The plays will come. The confidence will grow, and the ceiling will become more than just a talking point. But all has to start now, and it has to start with the floor. The good news? These guys seem to get that. From the veterans to the rookies, there's been a noticeable sense of urgency. Not panic, not desperation, just urgency. An understanding that they can't waste time, that they can't treat the early part of the season like a warm-up, that every snap counts, every drive counts, every rep is building something. And look, I'm not going to pretend that everything's going to be perfect on Sunday. It won't be. Week 1 never is. Teams are still finding their legs, guys are shaking off the rust, and game speed hits different than anything you see in camp or preseason. But you can still show who you are. You can still send a message to the league, to your fans, and to yourselves. You do that by taking care of the details. You do that by doing the hard things well. You do that by running the ball, stopping the run, protecting the football, flying to the football, finishing tackles, and finishing drives. It sounds simple because it is. Football isn't magic. It's execution. It's discipline. It's will. So that's where my focus is. Not the playoff picture. Not the standings. Not the ceiling. Just the floor. Just this game. Just this opportunity. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The rumor mill is buzzing in Pittsburgh, and fans are already dreaming big. According to sources close to the team, the Steelers are set to make a splashy move to reinforce their offensive line, targeting none other than Tevin Jenkins. Known for his imposing presence and almost impenetrable technique, Jenkins could be the key piece that turns Pittsburgh's offensive line into a fortress around a quarterback. Insiders suggest that the Steelers' front office has been quietly tracking Jenkins for months, captivated by his ability to dominate at the line of scrimmage. Jenkins, who has a reputation for shutting down elite pass rushers, could provide quarterback protection that Pittsburgh fans have longed for, especially during high-stakes moments. If the deal goes through, the Steelers wouldn't just be adding a player, they'd be acquiring a wall. Sources hint that talks are progressing swiftly, and the team could announce something sooner than expected, perhaps before the preseason kicks off. The speculation has already sent ripples through social media, with fans imagining a revamped offense that can finally give their quarterback the time he needs to shine. Offensive coordinators reportedly have been scheming plays with Jenkins in mind, picturing a unit that can both protect the passer and open lanes for the running game. Rumors even suggest that coaches are excited about the chemistry he could bring to the locker room, combining leadership with raw talent. Of course, nothing is official yet, and insiders caution that negotiations can be tricky. But if Pittsburgh pulls this off, it might signal a shift in strategy, moving from reactive line fixes to a more aggressive, front-loaded approach to keeping their QB safe. Jenkins, with his reputation as a reliable and versatile lineman, seems like the perfect candidate to solidify one of the league's most scrutinized units. Fans are already whispering about a mighty wall protecting the Steelers' signal caller. And if the rumors hold true, Pittsburgh might be about to unveil one of the most formidable offensive lines in recent memory. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.